Here he is, man. New York Times best-selling author, international business coach, speaker, hustler, grinder, real estate tycoon. And now, back joining me on the Dealer Playbook podcast to talk about his new book, Be Obsessed or Be Average. Here he is, the man, Grant Cardone. Thanks for joining me on the Dealer Playbook.
Michael, hey, great to be with you again, buddy.
Hey, this is going to be fun because, you know, the last time we hooked up in Vegas, we talked a little bit about, we plugged a little bit about.
Where's my book at, dude? Where's my book at?
I got it right in front of me here. I did the one-click purchase.
All right,
I got two copies on the way.
I see the domination book, but I don't see the Be Obsessed book, man.
Yeah, it's
nice sweater. Nice sweater, Michael. I like this sweater.
Thanks.
You look like you know Escobar. Escobar loved his sweaters too.
I'm just trying to take some of the limelight from that Kenneth Bone dude rocking a sweater.
Okay, I don't know.
The undecided voter.
Kenneth Bone, little bone or big bone?
I don't know. Well, if you see him, he's probably hidden bone. Oh man, that was rude.
Well, right, you're gonna be cleaning that up. I can tell.
that's gonna be chopped out. So you know, I want to turn this over to you right out of the gates. I mean, I've written a little pamphlet over here, so I know the process of you know, inking up a book. You've written several books now, super successful all over the world. What was your motivation to jump back into the saddle and write another book? Well,
really, you know, the 10X rule wasn't finished. You know, like the reason the 10X rule became such, I mean, it truly is an international phenomenon. Everywhere I go now, like somebody has read the 10X rule. We just got it translated, I think, into Spanish. China's picked up the book, both the 10X rule, Sell or Be Sold, and the new book, Be Obsessed or Be Average. The 10X rule, man, there's something to happen with it. And I talk about frequency all the time. I'm like, look, you're never going to get great until you get frequent. Your first piece of art will not be the one that makes you known. It's going to be later. It might be the one that was the perfect piece. It might be the best piece, but one piece will never get you known. So this is my 7th book. It's my 19th business program. And Be Obsessed really picks up where the 10X rule left off. And because literally millions of people, Michael, have asked me questions about the 10X rule that caused me to start realizing, hey, man, I didn't finish that book. You know, how do you handle burnout? When is 10X too much? What happens when your wife is 1X and you're 10X? You know, what happens when you work for a manager and the manager's kind of conservative and he's happy with the production of the company and you're like, dude, I'm telling you, man, I think we could do this much out of my one department. What happens when you're dealing with somebody that is budget focused and you're not? You're like, I'm expansion focused. I want to think like Google and you want to think like a mom and pop grocery store. And that's really what that I'm handling for myself in Be Obsessed or Be Average. Because you let me just finish. Let me just say this.
Sure.
You got to remember, dude, when I'm one guy that actually does what I'm writing. Like anybody that saw me write the 10X rule, many of you don't know this, but I was defending myself for doing 10X, right? And because I get heat for it. You promote too much, you market too much, dude. You're too freaking arrogant. Blah, 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 which brought me to this other place where, like, I want to be obsessed with who I really am, okay? I want to be me, and I got to figure that out. Even if I'm screwing up, I got to figure out, and that's all I'm doing all the time. My whole life since I was 10 years old, I'm trying to figure out Grant, you know, and be who Grant is, and that's this book is probably more personal to me than any book that I've written.
And so this is kind of. I love what you said because, I mean, I feel like so many times people aren't writing from a place of, you know, genuine, like, hey, we're doing this. I did this. This is what I'm currently doing. I'm currently experiencing my own journey, and here's some of the lessons I've learned. Got to get that position, the lighting. You mentioned a couple of things here that I think a lot of those watching or listening are dealing with every single day, which adds to the validity of what you've written. For example, how do I deal with this one stood out to me right away. It's like, how do I and I don't really put up with this because my wife's my biggest cheerleader. Like, she's in it with me, but I know I've heard from tons of people going, hey man, like, I'm so invested in the self-improvement and going to the workshops and bettering myself. And I just feel like every time I bring it up to my spouse, she's just like, dude, don't talk to me about that crap. I don't want to deal with it. So how do you dive into that? I mean, what's the reason for that?
I'll tell you what it is, man. The people that can't confront their own self-improvement will not want the people around you to self-improve. You know, the haters, the whole hater thing on the internet it's so popular. Haters gonna hate. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, haters aren't the problem, okay? There's 2 chapters in this book that did not get handled in the 10X rule because I brought up the haters in the 10X rule. It became very popular.
Right.
But the haters aren't the problem, okay? I suggested this in the 10X rule, but nobody got it. The hater is not the problem, man. Hitler wasn't the problem, dude. It was the people behind the scenes pushing the deal through, okay? He was obvious that he was a freaking loony, you know? It's not just Saddam or bin Laden that are the problem. It's who's behind the bin Laden thing, man. ISIS is clear that ISIS is ISIS. That's the hater, right? Who's behind the scenes allowing this thing to continue? Who are the puppet masters? Now, when that becomes a personal thing, the puppet masters in most people's life are the people very close to you. They don't even know, man. They're being used, the naysayers. Mm-hmm. So the naysayer is much more dangerous than the hater. The hater says, I hate Michael Carrillo. What a freaking jerk, okay? The naysayer is, Michael, I love you just the way you are.
Yeah.
Michael, why do you need all this? Why can't you just be happy little Mikes? Yeah. Mike, you did so good on the interview, Mike. Why don't you just stay, right? So
why don't you evolve? Why don't you just stay the way you are?
Yeah, you don't need to change. Don't change one thing, Mikey.
Yeah.
Right? Well, man, that's not the real world, right? So like moms, dads, and why do they want you not to change? You know, I hold my daughter, my 6-year-old, and every time when I carry her to bed at night, she comes and gets me in the middle of the night. Papa, would you put me to sleep? She's already been asleep. She just comes get me because she knows I'll carry her down there, right? And I'm like, hey, man, there's going to be a day I can't do this. But I don't want to tell her, I never want you to grow up. I cannot tell her that. It's not okay. Yeah. You know, it's not okay for me to put her on a bike and say, hey, be careful. Because that's what a naysayer says. Don't hurt yourself is what a naysayer says. And how can you possibly ride a bike and truly experience a bike without the possibility of hurting yourself?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about here. Look, you got to beware the naysayers. How do you handle them? The first thing you got to do is you got to get clear. Are you even obsessed? Because the only reason somebody will play with you and give you bad information is because you can be played with. Okay?
Yep.
So you know, everybody needs to really hear this, okay? My sisters don't tell me shit. that was a long time ago, dude. Now they know. They literally, it goes through their processing, right? It goes through their processor, whatever their processor is. I think I'm going to tell Grant that, you know, sitting on his jet engine is a bit too much. My sister Pam, I know she's thinking, I'm going to tell him. And then before it comes out of her face, she's like, that's not going to go anyplace. So, because I've handled her, you get it?
Yeah.
I handled my mom. Okay. Now what comes through is, man, that's a great shot of you on the plane. Cause they know I'm in. They know there's no getting me out of this deal now. Be obsessed or be average. And for the average you end up in anybody's conversation. You end up believing anybody's thing. And the fact that anybody is even challenging you. You know, most people will not challenge me to my face today because they know where I stand. I had a guy, I'm in negotiations right now, and the guy told me, really strong dude, he's like, you know, I said, man, you need to come to Miami and we need to do this face-to-face. He's like, I'd rather not, man. You're too enthusiastic about your position. So it's important for the other side to know where you stand, okay? And the way that starts is your wife's got to know where you stand, which means on the example of the self-improvement. Dude, if you're doing self-improvement every once in a while, you're not committed to it. I'm going to go to a workshop. Why would that surprise everybody? Because you're not committed.
Yeah. You're not all in.
Yeah. I'm going to a conference. How much is it going to cost? Probably a little more than the last one. Why? See, she's asking that right now or he's asking it because where are you going? Who are you going to be with? What are you going to do there? Is it going to be a waste of time? Because you haven't proved that these conferences are worth going to. So again, people, like if you got this dialogue going on around you, haters, naysayers, that says something about you. It doesn't say something about them.
Yeah, big paradigm shift there. So, and that leads to, okay, I'm all in, I'm obsessed, I'm going crazy, fanatical, 10x, 20x, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that leads me to the second thing. Actually, the first thing you brought up was how do I deal with burnout? Because it's funny. I've experienced burnout, but legit burnout, not like, oh man, I did my 9 to 5 and that just totally burned me out.
Yeah.
But
it will. Hey, the 9 to 5 will burn you out.
Well, especially if you're not passionate about what you're doing.
Well, I mean, why would you leave at 5 o'clock if you're passionate?
Yeah, totally.
So of course it's going to burn you out, dude.
How do you deal with that, though? Let's talk about the individual who's actually in the grind, not just filling the seat 9 to 5.
Well, Michael, first of all, I want to tell you, man, you do a great interview, dude. Every time I do an interview with you, I'm like, I feel you. I feel you in the interview, okay?
I love that. Thank you.
No, you're present for the interview, right? It's not just I'm going to ask these questions off the sheet of paper.
I don't have any questions. I'm just writing notes.
Well, then you're doing great, dude. So and maybe that's the right way to do the interview, right? So, number one, first of all, you know, dude, the burnout thing isn't real.
All right.
It's misdescribed. As I talk a lot in this book about labels, I had 125 people reached out to me yesterday and said, I have a problem with drugs, man. Can you help me? This book is really about being mislabeled. So I was mislabeled ADD, ADHD. Oh, by the way, those aren't the bad ones. Okay, bipolar. That's not the bad one. Here's a bad one. Dude, you're greedy, man. You damn right I am, dude. Okay. Now what you gonna call me now?
So you're saying
wait. Follow me here, okay?
Okay.
But don't call me I'm burnout. I'm not burnout because people don't say I'm burnout. People say, hey man, you look tired. Really? Are you tired?
I'm tired all the time, but that doesn't stop me.
So what, dude? I had a guy tell me the other night I'm tired. I'm like, dude, why is that what you notice? Right? You didn't notice that I'm in good shape for 59 years old. You didn't say, hey man, dude, your hair's looking sweet, man. See, what he noticed was the one thing, dude, I was tired that day. Maybe the lighting was bad. I don't know. Maybe I'm really tired, but why tell me? Who gives a shit? Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the burnout thing, when you said you were burnout, okay, do you remember when that was?
Yeah, I mean, it was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. Do you remember? Were you just kind of like off purpose maybe? At that time in your life?
Totally.
That's why you're tired. That's why you were tired, dude.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
You weren't burnt out. Because the reality, dude, were you burnt out or are you a wick?
No.
Or are you a cigarette?
Well, I don't know.
I don't think you're a cigarette, dude. I'm looking at you.
I don't think I'm a cigarette.
I mean, what gets burnt out, dude? A fire? Are you like a log?
Oh.
So why would somebody describe you?
So it's mislabeled. We've mislabeled
totally
it.
Mislabeled, bro. Okay, you were off purpose. You were doing a job that no longer fulfilled you, and/or you had accomplished that task, won that game, and you don't have another game to play. See, the problem, I once read this, man, a guy that I study, he said, hey, all games are aberrated because they end. You either win or you lose. And even if you win, dude, it's over. And the game's over, the game's over. The point of a game is to play the game. When I win, it's over. That's why so many sports guys and so many rock stars end up destroying themselves after the game. They win the champion ring. Kanye does an hour and a half to 25,000 people, and then he goes back and he's blowing dope and doing stuff that he doesn't want to do because he's trying to reenact that moment of purpose. And that's why I talk about in the book. Look, you cannot have one purpose. You cannot have one purpose. There are many purposes for an individual, okay? I believe this with 80 billion cells. The individual has many, many purposes, and no one thing can ever satisfy a huge being. And if you're meant to be a huge being, one thing, just riding a bike, if my daughter, all she ever accomplished in her lifetime was riding a bike, okay, she would not be fulfilled. Then she goes to school and she's like, okay, my new goal is to be a straight A student. Good, she gets straight A's. Sooner or later, the game's going to be over and she's going to be like, is that all I am? And then she's going to get married. Okay, I'm going to be the best wife that's ever lived. And then I'm going to be the best mother. And dude, you know what? Those 4 things will not fill up a human being, okay? But look at our psychiatric community and our Dr. Seuss influence says, you should be satisfied, young Michael, with all that you have done. And you're like, yeah, but I'm not. Yeah. And that's that obsession I talk about. The obsessions to do a lot of things and be awesome at it.
Do you find that, because I mean, we're talking about mislabeling. We're talking about almost taking things at face value. I know a lot of people struggle with looking at the Grant Cardones of the world and they say, dude, this guy's got A to Z figured out. He had that figured out from the time he was 25 and walked into that car dealership to get a job. You know, they see it as if like from beginning to end, you just had a vision of how it was all going to roll together. How did it actually play out for you? I mean, were there aha moments along the way where you were like, oh, yeah, man, figuring that out, aligning my purpose, you know, taking steps, executing, et cetera, to where you are now?
I don't have it figured out now. So just so everybody knows, I mean, I'm figuring it out. That's what I started this interview with. Look, I'm just trying to figure out Grant. Just like everybody else is struggling it, you can like criticize me, call me whatever you want to call me. Some guy called me a dick on Twitter today. I'm like, dude, I'm with you, bro. I agree with you. I mean, I can't even defend myself. I am that sometime, okay? Because I'm just trying to figure out who I am and what I'm doing and where I'm going. Look, when I was selling cars and I started selling 30 cars a month, dude, I was jacked up. And then one day, I wasn't jacked up about selling 30 cars anymore. I figured out how to do it in 14 days. And then one day, I'm like, dude, I don't even want to do this anymore. It wasn't that I didn't want to do that anymore. I needed to do something else. You know, it's not, you know, sooner or later, the players all end up with a second dealership.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, you expanded beyond your current situation.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I either have to give that up. You know, you look at Jack over at Twitter, you know, he's like, man, I can't be satisfied with Twitter. So what did he do? Went and started, Foursquare or whatever his deal is? He's going to run them both into the ground. You know? He's not going to make either one of them work, unfortunately. He should have really stayed with Twitter, made it work, and then throw it away or sell it, and then move on to a different thing. But again, even me saying Jack, you know, Jack with the founder of Twitter, look, it's his life, man. So maybe that's what he needs to do. But I don't think, you know, I leave the car business and I go start training car dealers. I'm making... You know, when I hit my seminar circuit, I was doing 200 speaking gigs a year. Every car dealer in America knew who I was. Mm-hmm. Bro, I was burnt out, bro, after 3 years of that. I did 600 gigs in 3 years. I wasn't burnt out because of the work. I wasn't burnt out because of the plane. I thought I was. I was burnt out because I was telling the same story over and over to a similar group of people over and over that had similar intentions, and that was basically re-stimulating, reminding me every day that I was not fulfilling my purpose, okay? And if I'm not fulfilling my purpose, whether it was selling cars, speaking to an audience, if I'm not fulfilling my purpose in life, I become destructive. I become destructive to myself. And I start doing weird stuff, okay? When you start suppressing your obsessions for greatness, you will start doing weird stuff. It's called aberration. You'll start doing sideways stuff, crooked stuff. I don't mean crooked like stealing, but stealing from others, crooked stealing from yourself. I'm just going to play basketball all weekend, okay? And then sooner or later, you're like, okay, dude, I love the game. I like to play the game, but damn, man. Or poker. I want to play poker. A guy told me today, he's like, I'm obsessed with being a poker star. My parents don't want me to do it. They say it's a dead-end deal. And I'm like, dude, it is a dead-end deal. Any one purpose is a dead-end deal. Now, clarify what it is about poker. Okay. Hey, man, I want to be a poker star. Good. Do you want to be rich? Yes. Do you want to be a celebrity? Yes. Do you want endorsements? Yes. What else? I don't know. You need to think about it, bro, because I guarantee it's going to take more than 4 things. Do you want a hot wife? Yes. Do you want kids? Yes, at some point, right? Do you want to help with your church or community? Absolutely. Well, good, bro. Then you want to be a poker star that is well respected, okay, that has self-esteem, that's not a degenerate, that has money. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So you got to fill out the whole picture. I started touching on this in the 10X rule, but this is where in Be Obsessed I really clarify how I'm doing everything that people see that I'm doing in my life right now, and they're wondering, how does this dude do all this stuff? I know you've heard people ask you that, dude. How big's his staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
All the time.
How's he doing all this? How does he do all this stuff in one day? You know, because when you tap into this Be Obsessed thing, when you tap into this all in, not crazy, by the way, I'm not crazy. I'm obsessed. Yeah. And which is way more dangerous.
Well, you're obsessed and in control, right? I mean, I sit down with some of my staff members and they come to, the one thing you don't do is walk into my office and say, dude, I just don't have enough time to get to this and that. Because you know you're going to get the exercise. All right, let's start with 168 hours.
Yeah.
Let's start winding this thing down. And I show them what my day looks like. They crap their pants. And then I go, dude, after all of this, I still don't know what the freak I did with the 14 leftover hours at the end of the week.
Right.
And they go, oh, they're not in control and maybe likely not obsessed about.
And control, control. You can't have control if you don't take responsibility. So you're taking responsibility. And I choose to take responsibility. And if I take enough responsibility for everything around me, I'll have control.
So your intention going into this book, I mean, because it is your journey. You've documented the things that you're figuring out. Like you started out by saying, hey, this is me. I'm trying to figure out me. This is Grant Cardone. Probably, labeled as a self-help book, but really not a self-help book.
It's a business book.
It's a here's what I'm doing.
You want to do some business? Do you want to do some business? Alexa, play some Kanye. Do you want to do some business? So
come on, Alexa.
You're not going to do. Come on, Alexis, play Kanye.
Wake up.
What's wrong with you?
Don't make us do the time management routine with Alexis.
So look, if you want to be, you show me, give me one name of one super successful business person that you can think of, Michael. First one you think of.
Elon Musk.
Obsessed.
Yeah. Bill Gates.
Obsessed. Guy was a freaking maniac, dude. Let's talk about Bill Gates, okay?
Yeah, let's talk about Bill Gates.
If you study Bill Gates, and you guys should, Alexa, play Kanye.
Playing songs by Kanye West.
There it is.
Yo G, did you hear that, dude? Yo G.
I did. I heard that.
Dude, the guy was a beast. Early on, I mean, carnivorous. Like, he started in a garage. I hear people tell this story. Well, Bill Gates, the richest man in the world, started his business in a garage. Yeah, but that's not where Microsoft became a business. Okay, nobody's made it in a garage, man. That's where it started. Yeah. Okay. The Cadillac ad. I think the Cadillac started in a garage. Well, that's good. It ended up in Detroit. Yeah. I mean, we only know about Cadillac because of Detroit, not because of a garage. So, people got to quit thinking little, man. You got to quit making sense of all the stars, the Elon Musk, the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates, the Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was obsessed, bro, while he was on the cross. Bring it on! And save my brother over here. Okay? That's all you got? Come on, man. Hit that foot down there.
Yeah, he's there dying, and he's still fulfilling a purpose, trying to save people.
And we're talking about him right now, man.
Yeah.
People are worried about burnout. He wasn't even worried about dying.
There you go. Well, and that's the intriguing thing. Everybody wants to go to heaven.
Nobody wants to die. Nobody
wants to die to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you forgot to mention your own name in that list of uber successfuls there.
You know what? When you look at guys like that, like those guys, when you start studying like Elon Musk, he wants to go to He wants to go to Mars and colonize Mars. He wants to launch 2 fusion bombs above Mars that he thinks will stimulate life. Right? Heat it up enough in a moment. I'm like, God, dude. I'm happy that I got a book #1 at Amazon, and I'm like, big deal.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So you know how that leaves a person? It leaves a person like if you're aware of your potential, it leaves a person dissatisfied. You know, it leaves a person like I've been watching Narcos, Escobar, Pablo Escobar. Yeah. 7th richest man in the world, man. He kills 400 people a year. Okay? He lives in the jungles of Colombia between Bogota and Medellin, right? And no education, total criminal, total evil person, right? Medicates most of the United States on cocaine. But I got to tell you something, man. I got a #1 book on Amazon. Big deal. So
but you know what? Once those fusion bombs go off, there's gonna need a real estate on Mars.
Dude, yeah. The point of the Escobar conversation is, dude, the guy, even though it was misused, the amount of potential energy, the fusion bomb inside of that guy, it leaves me dissatisfied. When I see a guy becomes the 7th richest person in the world, and I look at the goals that I've accomplished, it becomes inspiration. I'm not worried about being Pablo Escobar. I'm not going to be evil or criminal or bad. Okay? I'm not going to, whatever Donald Trump's being accused of right now, it isn't going to happen to me, dude, because I've cleaned up my whole life. So I don't have these weird things popping out of me.
Yeah.
That so many people, so many of my friends and so many people that write me say, look, dude, I got these problems going on in my life. 125 people wrote me yesterday and said, dude, I got a problem with weed, Xanax, Ritalin, Prozac, like 125 people. They wrote me at addicted@grantcardone.com. And I said, look, I know how to get off drugs, man. I know how to get off drugs, stay off drugs, and get drugs out of your body forever. And most importantly, not spend the rest of your life thinking you have a disease or that you're powerless. Because you're not. You don't have a disease. And you are never powerless, man. Okay? The problem is somewhere along the line, the drug addict, I believe this, lost his or her self-respect and belief in themselves, started denying their potential, their positive obsessions, and ended up with an ism.
Yeah. Well, what stands out to me, too, is just rewinding to Bill Gates for a second and individuals like him. I mean, there's so many people that go, oh, man, we see that. They're not using what they see as inspiration. They're using it as, see, there's already somebody that came up with this stuff. What I love about Bill Gates is, I was reading an article about him and he kind of openly admitted, it was a Q&A article. He's like, look, there were several other people that had ideas that were similar to mine. I was just the only one that took action on them and did something. Or I got to it first. Or I just chose to dominate. Yeah,
the guy was obsessed, dude.
Right?
He's like we say in Louisiana, like a hungry dog on the back of a meat truck. Yeah. I had a 200-pound Mastiff when I lived in Los Angeles. We had a bunch of dogs. And there's 200-pound Mastiff. I mean, monster, massive, unbelievable, gorgeous dog. I've always loved animals, particularly dogs. And I walk up on this Mastiff, dude, and this Mastiff reaches up, grabs my right arm, right, and I just surrendered to him. I know how to play with a big dog. He wasn't playing though. He was angry. He thought he was being threatened, And I know this about a dog that size, dude. Surrender to him. You start pulling away from that dog, okay? That dog is locking down. That dog's obsessed with some femur, in this case, some forearm. And I just gave it to him and pushed it into his mouth, basically. But hungry dog on the back of a meat truck, that's what people have to develop. I'm not talking about enthusiasm. I'm not talking about passion. I'm not talking about a state change. I'm not talking about motivation. I'm talking about obsession. If you met me 25 years ago, man, I was saying enthusiasm, attitude. Attitude is important. Enthusiasm is important. No, obsession, okay, is important.
Okay, so I mean, for the the real estate agent, the car sales professional, the retail mountain bike store owner. They're listening to this and they're saying, what do I do? How do I turn on the hungry dog without, because and I've struggled with this in the past. You all of a sudden start becoming the person that you're getting the inspiration from. Like, you start acting like them, you start talking like them. How do you do it but maintain, authenticity? Like, you maintain yourself through that.
Because and you brought up a good point. In fact, you're the only person that's ever asked that question. I remember studying a guy when I was 25 years old. Dude, I studied the guy so much, I started picking up his mannerisms. I remember walking across the showroom floor feeling like the guy. I was like, damn, I'm walking like him now.
Yeah.
Okay? No problem. You will not leave you. Stay with it. Don't worry about it, okay? The authentic you will integrate. It's impossible, right? I could, if I studied if I studied every interview you did over and over and over, hundreds of hours, sooner or later I'm going to start picking up your Carrillo mannerisms.
You'd be wearing a sweater.
Yeah. Even if I didn't change.
It's funny though, because I say that in full transparency, because and I'm telling you right now, and I'm not trying to go all fanboy here all of a sudden, but like, I remember the first time we signed up with your training program back in 2012. Dude, well, and here I go. I had never said dude as much as I said dude after I said, now I say dude all the time.
Yeah.
But
and I thought you were the reason I said dude.
This cross-pollination. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then, I start saying dude and freaking and all that. And I mean, over time, those are me. Anybody that hears me like, dude, Cirillo says freaking all the time when he's talking.
Yeah.
But it's become me. And but for a while I was like, just like what you said. And that's why I think there's a lot of people struggling with it. I was like, dude, I'm like the bald Cardone.
Yeah, yeah. But
with the Danny DeVito-esque body, not the, Timberlake.
I met Danny, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah. He came to my house. He was going to buy my house in the hills in LA. So his real estate agent said, don't talk to Mr. DeVito when he comes in. So of course, what did I do?
Yeah, of course.
I said, hey, big man, your dude over there, your dude told me not to talk to you. So I thought we'd just get it out of the way. Did he really say that? I said, yeah, he really said that, which is kind of offensive. By the way, I didn't show him the high ceilings. I would normally show that
countertops in the bathroom.
I would normally show that feature. So yeah, but back to the conversation about, if you're not morphing into somebody else's personality, you're not studying anyone. And if you're not having that morph experience, like, hey, I feel like I'm becoming that person, you're studying too many people. It's one of the two. You're either not, and like if you're watching me and Gary and Bob and John and Linda and most people are collecting too much data.
Right.
Hey Scott, can I call you right back? I'm right in the middle of an interview and I'm highly interested in all three of those deals. Okay, thanks. And that just brings me back to this other topic about hustle and grind.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't really talk about hustle or grind. I suggest everybody not hustle and not grind and become obsessed.
And obsessed, you'd say the key difference
because look, if you watch any of the guys that are doing the hustle and the grind, there's some other. Well, just look around, man. Look at their lives, man. Okay, how they looking, man? How they looking? How's the rest of it going? How's the money going, man? How's the contribution to the church and the community going? What are they doing for charities? How are they helping? Dude, I raised $100 million last year for charities. In addition to everything else that I did. So when you tap into all the parts of your life, I don't think, oh, I got to go to this charity event tonight. Dude, I'm doing my life. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing a gig when I go to LA. I don't go to LA to do a gig. If you see me fly, I'm going to fly to San Diego at the end of the month and speak to at a Thrive conference. I assure you, that will not be the only thing I do in San Diego. I don't fly all the way across. do that one gig, get on a plane, and fly back. I'm going to go do my life there for 3 or 4 days. You follow me? So always senior to me is to be obsessed with the Grant Cardone life. I'm doing Grant Cardone's life. I'm not doing my mama's life or my sister's life or my brother's life.
Yeah, you're not going to work to make you know how so many people say this, oh man, I'm sick of making somebody else rich. Dude, you're doing your life. Start taking control of your life. That's your deal.
And if you're tired of making somebody else rich, I got news for you. You're not getting rich ever.
Love it. I've got a million more things rolling around in my head. All I can say is if you're like me and you've got a million questions about how to be obsessed rolling around in your head, you need to get your hands on a copy of Be Obsessed or Be Average. You can buy it now on Amazon. It is available. And you know what, Grant, man, thanks so much for joining me.
Michael, let me just tell you one other thing that I want to tell everybody, okay? When people buy the book, okay?
See, this is the part I love because last time I closed it down and he was like, let's keep going.
No, dude, I'm good,
I'm
man.
worried about Scott now. I want Scott to get those deals done.
I'm not worried about Scott.
Okay, fair enough.
It's only about 80 million in deals. Look, and that brings me back to this thing, okay? I get an email the other night, not an email, but a snap. And this kid, man, this kid's like, the same day I sold a piece of property, I made $9 million. The escrow closed at 8.970.
Yeah.
That was transferred to me that day. And that night I got a Snapchat from a kid that said, hey, man, I got a hold of a program and I made a commitment to quit using drugs because of that program. He's like, a day before I ran into you, I was thinking about committing suicide, and I made a commitment. And I looked at those two things that day, bro, $9 million and that kid, and I'm telling you right now, and my whole staff knows this to be true about me. I know everybody has a hard time believing it.
Oh, I know it's true of you.
I will remember that Snapchat. See, nobody can take that away from me, ever. That is my purpose. And when you tap into the real one, dude, not the money, man. When you tap into the real one, because the money's going to go away, you know. But that thing right there, that contribution I made to that one person, then everybody told me Snapchat was a waste of time for me. That right there was worth more to me than all the money I'll ever get in my whole life. So,
I believe it.
That's not what I wanted to tell you, though. I wanted to tell you that when people buy the book, okay,
Yeah.
what I'm doing for everyone is you get every Tuesday. I'm doing a read-along. A breakdown of the book. You know, what was I writing in chapter 1? It's a mastermind group. My goal is to create a big be obsessed circle of people on this planet. And every Tuesday we're going to meet for a little coaching. I'm running it, not one of my staff. 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you send me a receipt that you read the book, to obsessed@grantcardone.com, obsessed@grantcardone.com, or you could just go to grantcardonetv.com/book reviews. I hate the name. That's not the right name for that. grantcardone.com/book reviews, and subscribe there, and we'll even if you didn't buy the book, dude, you just want to be part of the read along, good. I'd rather you have the book, though. I'd rather you have the book so you can know what I'm talking about, right? So I'm going to do that every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll last about 20 minutes. You know what 20 minutes is like to me, right?
Yeah, that's like 4 hours, 4.5 hours at least. 4 hours and 20 minutes. There you go.
Yeah.
Love it. Grant, thanks so much for taking the time today. I'd love to have you back on the show.
Dude, let's pick up your other questions sometime, man. I'd love to, all right?
Love it. Thanks so much.
Okay, buddy. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.